education, healthcare, and so on. And I really believe the key is to ultimately be able to personalize these services at massive scale, where technology, and in particular data science, can play a very, very key role. So we are all familiar with our problem related to education and skilling, which is very close to my heart, and we made that the vision for our company. You're all familiar with some of these numbers, right? While India is making very good progress towards this objective that we established in about 6 or 7 years ago, to raise the gross enrollment ratio to about 30% by 2020. So we're making good progress, in fact, towards this. However, when it comes to quality, that's a whole new, that's a completely different situation. So already we have seen, again, for all these years, so many of these studies showing barely 25% of the students who are graduating with an engineering degree are considered employable, but things seem to be about to become much worse, because most of these graduates, right, have been joining the IT services industry. And the services industry is not going to, the kind of jobs that they will have is going to dramatically change. Because of all of this automation, right, there are all these buzzwords, robotic process automation and so on. A lot of the mundane kind of work, repetitive work that was being done by these graduates is going to be done by machines in the future. So they're not going to need to hire people, at least for these kind of jobs, in such big numbers anymore. The people that they're going to, in fact, need, in some sense, I would say this is actually good. This is progress being made, because the kind of problems that they will be working on is much more interesting, a lot, but they will correspondingly need people with much higher level of skills. Healthcare is pretty much a broken system all over the world. So this slide was prepared by one of my, when I was at Xerox Research Center, one of my colleagues who's a medical doctor who we hired to bring in that domain expertise of healthcare. And like a typical doctor, he first pronounced his verdict on the health of healthcare. And he said, health of healthcare is not good all over the world. And I mean, there are problems like you start with UIS, which prides itself on having the most advanced healthcare system in the world. They're running into this issue, right, of completely unsustainable kind of costs, which I already, I mean, this data is old, but the trends are still continuing. The costs have already risen to over $9,000 per person per annum. And yet, often, there are so many people who are not getting good care. If you compare it with some of these other advanced economies, the absolute level of spend there is much lower. So you might think that, oh, if the US learns from these economies, things would be fine. But if you look under the covers, all of them are struggling with this rapidly rising cost. And there's only one country on this chart, right, which doesn't seem to be suffering from that problem of rapidly rising average cost, and that's Mera Bharat Mahan, India. And somebody who's not familiar with India might be tempted to think, oh, India is doing something right in healthcare. And the real reason we all know in this room is because we simply don't provide healthcare to most of our population. Right? So that's a very easy way to cut costs. But obviously, right, our population will need and will demand better healthcare. And if you look at that segment, right, which really all of us, right, who do have access to decent quality healthcare, our costs are probably going to look very much like the US. So at the same time, if US cannot afford to build healthcare, I mean, the way they have done it, we need to do something dramatically different, right? And that's where, again, I mean, it has to be first driven by a business model change, but data science can play a very, very key role in building a dramatically different kind of a healthcare system. So why now? Let me not belabor the point too much. I kind of like this particular slide. I have that emotional connection because I often talk about what are some of the important things that happened in the year 1965. Well, one important thing to me that happened was I was born that year. But for the world, a very interesting thing that happened was there was an observation made by a guy called Gordon Moore. who later went on to be one of the co-founders of Intel, that we are going to be able to double the number of transistors with every generation. And I also always was fascinated by the story, right, that I'm sure you all can relate to, the story I'm talking about, where there was a chess player, and there are various versions of this story, a chess player who pleases the king said, what reward do you want? He points to the chessboard and says, just give me 1 grain of rice for the first square and so on, keep doubling, and give me enough for the chessboard. And the king initially said, is that all you want? And later he realizes he would not be able to honor that promise, right? He would go bankrupt, not be able to honor that promise. So something very similar is happening with, again, fueled by, think of Moore's law, the doubling of rice grains. The analogous thing is doubling of transistors. And in fact, in the year 2006, I used to be with IBM, so I was given this standard presentation, and I learned this factoid, that we produce, in 2006, we produced more transistors than grains of rice as human beings in the year 2006. So I would say we crossed that point, right, that we reached that second half of the chessboard, analogous to the point when the king realized he would not be able to honor the promise. We reached that point where computational power became so significant and very inexpensively available that now you can do all kinds of unimaginable things, right, by analyzing data, right? And it led to all these, initially there were 3 V's of big data. The 4th V, I don't know how many of you are aware, the 4th V, veracity, was actually contributed by scientists in India. One of my colleagues, LVS, I remember how we picked up that slide from one of these analysts. One of my colleagues at Xerox showed me the slide, and I said, wow, I remember this slide when it was prepared for this IBM Global Technology Outlook. Anyways, it led to all of this, again, interest in applying big data, data science, and so on, artificial intelligence, to now solve real problems. So one of the problems, again, which we have been looking at is education and learning in general. So the research project that we started a few years ago at Xerox earlier was looking at this whole dichotomy. On one hand, you have amazing, really high quality content getting created in the form of all these video lectures. MIT OpenCourseWare, Khan Academy, edX, Coursera, and so on. And yet, learning outcomes are still so poor. Why is the gap still there? And can technology help bridge that gap? So that led to, again, first we trying to understand some of these issues, and then trying to come up with a platform to deal with some of these issues. So that led to, again, a project initially called Xerox Future Space, which last year, we basically bought rights to the intellectual property and the rights to the software and launched this startup at the beginning of this year called Videoken, which is trying to, through a platform, help bridge that gap. So, and what we realized very quickly is that in addition to educational institutions, which were our original target, in fact, right now, it is companies where we are finding the fastest traction because of the importance of reskilling that everybody has recognized. I mean, at this point, you have to be a lifelong learner, right? If you really want to kind of have a real career. So one of the things that we are able to do is we are able to make companies. So guess what? So right now, so we launched this company in January. We have so far 10 paying customers, of which 5 are companies. And of these 5 companies, pretty much each and every company, without exception, had banned YouTube. I mean, and still has banned YouTube from being used in their corporate IT environment. Whereas, what our software is able to do is plug in, is kind of, it plugs into, in fact, the backend of YouTube, youtube.api. In fact, they can continue to ban it, but through Videoken, they can really have access to all of the educational content which is available in YouTube. There are over 3 million videos, educational videos, available on YouTube today. Very, very high quality content in, you name it, machine learning, deep learning, design, whatever, management science, social science, almost any topic you can think of. So what we have, some of the things that we do is we provide some really unique capabilities for analyzing videos, being able to search for topics on those videos, find the right information within a video, because videos, despite being very powerful, are also not very easy to navigate. So some of the things that we do, which are unique, is, for instance, so we also give you a search bar. So in fact, now, we've recently opened up this search to anybody. You don't even need an account, no paid account, nothing. Any of you can go to videoken.com and do a search. Just like you do Google search, you can now do a Videoken search for a video on any topic of interest to you. Various videos will come up. And some of the unique things that we do is, if we have already crawled that video, analyzed that video, we would have created these two things. A table of content, which is not shown here. This is the old view, and a phrase cloud. The table of content, by the way, let me use the next slide, is basically a list of topics that are being covered in that video. So if you have a 1-hour video, without you having to go through that entire 1 hour, which you wouldn't have the patience to do so, we will give you the list of topics. This, by the way, still works well only on relatively smaller class of videos when you have nice slides and so on. And we are working, again, applying AI techniques to further improve it for when you don't have slides. The other thing, and if you want to say, okay, I want to jump straight away to this topic, supervised learning, you just click there and it directly takes you to that part of the video where that topic begins. The other thing that we do is this phrase cloud. Somehow this pointer is not working. Where we give you a tag cloud representation. Here are the key words that are showing up in the video. When you click on any of those words, it shows you all the places in the video where that word appears. And now, if you click there, you can directly go to that part of the video. And then you can also, we now have these start and end markers. You can place those at any arbitrary points in the video and say, okay, I want that clip and I want to add it to my Ken list. So Ken means knowledge. So Ken list is this playlist, your own personal playlist of video clips that you're able to accumulate. And what we have seen is, so for instance, a large multinational corporation, which is one of our early customers, their entire fresher induction program, campus hire induction program is being run using Videoken. So within a matter of 2 weeks, they were able to put together all this training. They used to have their own homegrown videos, but within these 2 weeks, they just put together much higher quality by their own admission videos and combined it with their own assessment. So our tool allows you to then, to those videos, add your own, if you wanted to add your own PowerPoint presentations, your own assessments, assignments, quizzes, and so on. We allow you to do all of that, and they were able to create much higher quality content, which is being used by their campus hires before they join the company. Likewise, for another large services company, we were able to put together a very high quality deep learning program, again, using videos from the real pioneer, right? Who better than Jeff Hinton to teach you deep learning? All of those videos are available openly in public domain, which we are able to utilize. And of course, I mean, we are providing capabilities to then also share materials. So in fact, I remember Bhupesh made that suggestion when I first showed that tool to him. He said, don't make just faculty kind of curate this content and share with students. Why not let students also share this content with each other? And in a corporate setting, employees are able to do that. So we are supporting both self-learning by employees as well as peer-to-peer learning. That when you are stuck on a problem and you find the right video clips that contain a solution to your problem or will help you pick up a new skill that you really need, you can not only save it for your own use, you can start sharing it with your colleagues. And it supports all of that self-learning, peer-to-peer learning in organizations and so on. And again, there are various analytics that we are working on to ultimately support a more personalized kind of a learning experience for each learner. One of our customers also insisted, and in fact we've been improving the platform. They said, you must have all these badges and leaderboards and so on, right, to keep the competitive juices flowing, so that all of these learners who are registered in a class are kind of, they see where am I relative to my peers. Oh, I've fallen behind, I must do more. Because one of the issues with a lot of these learning platforms in the past has been low engagement rates, low dropouts and so on. So while, yes, we are very happy with the kind of adoption we are getting, very pleased with the progress, when I put my researcher hat on, I still see long way to go. I mean, I see this as a long multi-year journey before we really are able to ultimately figure out, right, how to really provide a personalized pathway to each and every learner on the planet, right? How do we provide a tool that understands each learner in a very, very deep manner, understands their strengths, their